Alright, so this is what we're heading for today. We are going to have our transoms on, our molds all set up and locked into the ladder rail. So this is the benefit of having the kit made with the routers, the CNC routers. Really gets you exactly where you need to be without a lot of head scratching. It comes together really fast. Here we have the ladder frame. This is what comes with your CNC routed kit. These two pieces are laid out flat with a straight edge on the bottom edge. This is laid on there, clamped, and then screwed. Stiffens everything up considerably. Then you have on either end braces. The ladder end braces allow you to prevent racking of the two pieces, keeps them oriented and square on either end. On either side you have two buys that have been straightened as much as possible to 1.5 inches, which allows you to index the frame bracing on either side and also keeps the whole ladder frame from kind of wiggling. It's not really going to do that too much, but you want to avoid, since you have it very rigid on either end, you want to really avoid any kind of waviness. So these will help you keep everything straight and rigid. It shouldn't wave up and down or side to side. This stage in the building of the molds, this is kind of a good spot to be a little fussy and to really make sure that everything is where you want it to be. We want to make sure that everything is level, and we want to make sure that there is no twist within the ladder frame. The boat can be off plumb fore and aft, but you don't want it to twist like so, to be lower on this side and lower on the other side, and that can cause a lot of problems down the line. I put some screws into the legs of the sawhorses to keep those rigid as well. So I have a few shims here. They're just shingles that are sort of snapped in half and work quite nicely for this. Not having to adjust too much. Once you have everything level and where you want it, you can sink a couple of screws at an angle, either on the outside, on the inside. And just make sure that that's not going anywhere. Great. So now you know this end is level. Come out to the other end and repeat. Might not need to do much. Great. Throw a screw in there. So these are the setup notes that come with the whole CNC plan. We've done sort of the first section, getting everything straight and level and solid, no twist, etc. And so now we will install the molds. Each mold is numbered. They have a center line scribed on them. I'm choosing to orient the center lines all heading towards the bow. Each one of these stations has a notch. You really want to make sure that they're totally down and in there. These do fit quite tightly because of computerized tolerances. So requires a little bit of fuss. So that should be good. There we go. And if you feel like that's really, really tight and it's just not going without a lot of force, you can take a little bit of sandpaper to the edge of this Advantech. It does tend to sort of fuzz up when it's cut. So just giving it a couple of swipes will clean it up. Hopefully make it go in a little easier. There we go. Okay, so I sanded this one a little bit because it was really tight in that notch, and that should, thinning out the mold, should help it drop in there a little bit more easily. There we go. If you do have to strike it, try and use a 2x, some sort of block. Don't just bang on this stuff because it will just sort of disintegrate. There we go. There we go. So all of them are in. You can go ahead and use that 2x and kind of go across and give them all a little bit of whack just to make sure everything is totally locked in and settled down. When we're ready to put our transoms on, we do need these blocking pieces. They are described in the plans, but essentially you want some 2x's that are milled square and flat and fastened so that they are flush with these surfaces at the bow and stern. At the stern here, we have a little notch that allows us to lay the transom right in place, and it should line up quite nicely. This little cutaway should line up flush with the outside of your ladder frame, which allows you to orient that as it is, and then until you're totally sure is where you want your transoms to be, you can put a couple clamps on there. So we've set up the stern transom. Very conveniently lands in this little notch that's part of the ladder rail. For the bow transom, orientation is a little bit different. This piece right here is the end brace. This transom piece is meant to land in line with the bottom edge of the brace piece. So I'm going to tack a scrap of plywood right on, and this will allow me to rest the transom right on here. Okay. Couple, 2-3 screws. So, before I go too far, I'm going to transfer my center line out. And before you do attach these transoms, it's a good idea you get a sort of scribed center line, similar to the way it's done on the brace and on the molds. Really see where it is, and it allows you to set that right up. You can set your center line and make sure it's right on there. Similar to the stern, the bow transom should also line up. It's kind of tough to see, but that is the outside edge of your ladder rail. I've done the same as up back aft, up forward. I've made these pieces, cut it, the bevel, and screwed to the ladder rail in line with it so that I can have a clamping surface for the transom. So before I had the molds in, the ladder rails were kind of a little bit wonky vertically, so I did make this that is 24 inches. That's the same distance as the molds would hold this out, just to keep it happy until I put the molds in. So I'm going to get rid of it now that these guys are keeping everything in line. And you do just want to make sure for orienting side to side, this bow transom, that your center line there, which I've taken a pen and just run it down in the center of the scribe line, will match up with the scribe line on the inside of your bow transom. So in addition to your center line, making sure that that's lined up, you'll have the scribe line on either side that will tell you the proper orientation of the tops of the ladder rails to make sure they're not sort of bowing in or out. That just gives you an idea before you put everything together that you're not causing this to sort of splay out or fall inward. You do want to make sure that things are fair, recheck for twist, all that sort of stuff before you really lock everything together.